We're going to go past using the interpreter today to use an editor to create whole programs that we can run. That provides a lot more power. So far with Python, with the interpreter that we've had, we can do things like set variables, right? Set the amount of money I have. Maybe we want to start to write a little model for a bank. So maybe I have an interest rate of, say, 10%. Let's hope that it's so high. And I can calculate how much more money I have. So new money equals money plus interest rate, money plus money times interest rate. And now I can look at how much new money I have and see, sure enough, it raised by 10%. That's great. But suppose I want to change my interest rate to something more realistic, like 1% or 2%. Well, how do I do that? I would have to type all that stuff in again. Maybe I can copy and paste, but that's no way to write a program. So while the command line is great for trying stuff out, we're going to use a text editor to do this instead. So there's a few different ways to do this. Let's leave this interpreter. Control D. Is the way to quit. And let's open a standard text editor. On the Mac, I'll use TextEdit. If you're on Windows, you can use Notepad. And you have to make sure you're editing in plain text and not rich text. So I'm in TextEdit. I'm going to say make plain text. And now I've just got a plain, simple text editor. And I can, I'll just copy in some of the same stuff. I'll have to get rid of those extra lines here. Make this bigger so you can see this. And save this. And I'll just put it in a temp directory. And I'll call it test.py for Python. Now I can go to my command line, go to that temp directory, and instead of just running the Python interpreter, I can run the interpreter and pass it that file that I just created. And when I do it, it will execute all of the commands, all the instructions in that file. Well, it didn't display anything because we weren't using the nice feature of the interpreter to display the resulting value of each line. So instead what we need to do is actually print to the output whatever we want to see. So I can say print money and then print new money. And print is a special kind of function that takes a parameter and displays it to the screen. Save this, go back to the interpreter, and now when I run this program, we get this nice result. We can make this a little bit prettier like we had before. We can say original money plus, and convert this into a string, and so on. The bottom line is we can now very easily edit our program and run it. Make small changes and run it. And this is a lot closer to the way that programmers write programs. So using a text editor and a command line is a fine way to develop programs. You can go back and forth pretty quickly. But it turns out there's a better solution, and that is to use an integrated program that combines the editing with the testing and running. That provides lots of advantages, and we'll see some of those in a minute. The general word for this kind of integrated, combined tool is an IDE, an integrated development environment. There's lots of different IDEs available. If you have one you're already familiar with, you're free to use it. But in this class, we're going to use PyCharm. PyCharm lets us get started pretty easily. We're going to create a new project. We'll call it test. We are going to add a new file. We'll add a Python file. We'll call it test. It added a line for us setting an author variable, but we don't need that, so I'll just delete that. And I'm going to go and copy this program that we wrote from the other text editor, paste it in here, and you'll immediately see it looks different. It automatically colors based on the syntax. So variables are white, numbers are red, strings are green, functions are this sort of yellow color, and all kinds of other things happen as well. So like if I highlight this variable money, it automatically highlights for me all of the other uses of that variable because it understands Python. It's much more than a text editor. The main thing we want to do now, though, is to be able to run it. So you just go to this run menu up here. The first time you run something, you click down over here where it says run ... and it's going to ask us how we want to run it. We just say we want to run test, and it opened up this window at the bottom, and there it is. It has some extra information. This first line tells us how it ran. In fact, essentially just ran Python with test.py just like we did before in the command line. Then it shows the output, and then it says that the process finished with exit code 0. That means there weren't any errors. We can now modify this. For example, let's set our interest rate to say just a value of say 2%, 0.02. Once we've set up that run configuration once, now we can run it with this top menu item, run test, and notice there's a keyboard shortcut, Control R. So all we have to do now is just do Control R to run it. And sure enough, our new money is 10.2. Let's change our interest rate to 1%, rerun it, and watch the new money change, and it will change from 10.2 to 10.1. Now it's really fast, and we can readily go back and forth between our nice editor and our output.